The Blues prospects are undefeated after that prospect showcase. I'm going to talk more about it coming up here on Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And good Monday to you, St. Louis. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here in the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It feels so good to be back, by the way. I was in Europe, for those that didn't know why all my episodes were pre-recorded so far in September. So yes, I am back. And yes, it is 5 episodes a week again. On today's episode, I'm going to talk about Will Cranley and how strong he was in net. Zach Balduke had a great goal, honestly, goal of the showcase, and then some takeaways that I saw throughout the 2 games of this prospect showcase. So we have a lot to get into on today's episode of Locked On Blues. But before I do that, now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Wow. As I said, it's been quite a while since I've been in front of the camera and microphone talking to you all about Blues hockey. I know that there's been a lot that's happened, but I really want to focus on what I saw, especially in yesterday's game and the game prior with Will Cranley in net. We all know last year it wasn't the best for Will in net, right? He didn't do that good of a job, if we're being honest, because Connor Bedard kind of lit up. And when I mean lit up, like it was pretty bad. But what was so impressive in the 6-2 victory that the St. Louis Blues had over the Wild was that Will had 26 saves, which is a big number considering the fact. I mean, yes, what happened naturally, the Wild scored first, but then the Blues were able to get back on top. And I mean, Will really did make the game. And I think that's what's most important. Obviously, Cranley is going to try to get a roster spot. And the thing with the Blues and the good situation with the Blues, right, is that they do have really good goalies within Jordan Binnington and Joel Hofer. So if there's one thing about the Blues that I'm probably not concerned about, it is who is in net, because the Blues do have some good goalie prospects. But I mean, 26 saves in yesterday's game was definitely something that impressed me and it stood out to me. I think that, Will is still young, right? And there is a lot that he could still work on. But again, I think that right now we're seeing him develop into a really strong netminder, which is going to serve the Blues really well, especially when it comes to just, I know that we're going to have the conversation, but one day if Binner isn't on the Blues, obviously they're going to have that conversation of, okay, well, who's going to step up? Probably Joel Hofer, and then you're going to need a backup. And right now I would say Will. I know that's down the line, but I want to talk more about Will because he is somebody worth mentioning. So if you want to see him play in net this season, definitely watch the Springfield Thunderbirds. Is that who he is with? I'm a huge T-Birds fan, so obviously I'm all about the Thunderbirds, 22 years old from Canada. And the cool thing about Will, and this is what I like about him, he is really tall. He is 6'4", and to have a really tall goalie standing at 185 pounds in net definitely is something that I find positive. Now, in the 2020 draft, he was drafted 163rd overall by the Blues. And, he has played with some ECHL teams. So he's been with the Reading Royals and the Utah Grizzlies. But he's also played a lot in the OHL with the Flint Firebirds, Ottawa 67s, quite a bit. So he has played with some bigger team names, right? But now, obviously, with the Thunderbirds, that's going to be a huge step up, right? I think that what I saw from Will this weekend definitely has me thinking, if anything also were to happen to Binner, Hofer, I would feel comfortable with him. His reflexes definitely improved from last season. And last season during the showcase, again, as I mentioned, we did not see that many good things. So it is a positive sign, at least. And, again, too, there is some other player, I understand, right? And I just want to make that very, very obvious is that I understand that there are some other players, especially in net, like Vadim, Colton Ellis. I understand that there are some other players that might be a little bit ahead of Will. But I think I was just so impressed with how he, was in net yesterday that kind of stood out to me. And Blues Muse, who I talk to a lot on Twitter, love them. We were also talking about it too, about how impressed we were with him in net and his, um, calmness, his everything, his demeanor. It really did show that he made some big improvements this past season with preparing for, this upcoming season. And the thing with goalies is, yeah, you might be like, oh, 22, he's old. Not really. The thing is with goalies, you can be older. It takes more time to develop, obviously. I'm not looking at that as a negative. I think that he just obviously is going to take a little bit longer, which again, not a bad thing, but obviously it's one of those things where you definitely have to just acknowledge the fact that, yeah. Anyways, so coach of the T-Birds, Mr. Steve, said he's been good for a few days, whether it's at practice or whatever. So he looks like he can play at short sample size, but was certainly steady out there and made the saves he needed. Good for him. So that was a very positive thing. So anyways, let's continue on. Dan Stewart, who is the Springfield Thunderbirds coach, basically said, when Cranley was, speaking, I worked with Dan, and that's who he was referring to. Everything from top to bottom, just sharpening up my game tonight. I think that's a good aspect to my game. I think it's just taking it game by game, no matter where I'm playing. I just want to give the team the best chance to win every night. I think in the past, consistency's been a little bit of a thing. So this year, I think the biggest thing going forward is just a little bit of consistency. If I can establish that, we'll be in good shape. I think overall my engagement level was good. There's really never a question about my skill there. It's just an engagement level kind of thing and a mental thing. Tonight, it was there. So that to me, very positive. I think, again, as I said, it's all about maturity, getting comfortable in net, and being able to execute. I think that the Blues, if you had to look at any aspect of their prospects, 100% you can say that you're confident in net. And I think all Blues fans can relate to that. And I think that having strong, goalies, if it's within, the T-Birds or anything in our, development pool in a way, that should make you feel really good about the future of this team because everyone always said, oh, Doug can't draft, blah, blah, blah. Well, obviously he can if you're having some really good guys in net shine already. And it's only going to get better with, the longer that he develops, right? And who knows, he may not even play here depending on like how contracts work out. And like I hate to sound harsh about that, but that's the reality, right? There might not be a spot for him, and I think that's okay. But right now, I'm happy that Will is here, and I think there's nothing but positives from him. I mean, he had an interview a couple years ago talking about, he was playing obviously at the Ottawa 67s OHL, and he said it's every goalie's dream to play for the OHL. He's from Canada, and I thought about it. And, he just has this really good work ethic about him. Was I a little surprised that he stayed in the whole game yesterday? Kind of. I wasn't expecting that. But I think that he really held his own and he shined. And it's all about leaving impressions in these prospect games, right? I mean, I know that he's done with the Blues. I'm just saying a very general statement. There are other scouts from other teams that go to these games, that watch these games just to see talent. So, again, I know that he's with the Blues. I know that, but I'm just saying that it's also not a bad thing to play really well in front of a bunch of other scouts in an individual type of aspect. A selfish aspect in a way, maybe, but I just think that overall he played a really good and strong competitive game yesterday, 26 saves. That says it all. So good job to Will. And now I want to talk to you about a player who shined, who were the C, and that is Mr. Zachary Balduke. But like in good old Locked On Blues fashion, because again, we're all about consistency on this podcast. I am sure you're probably thinking, Haley, is it FanDuel? And yes, it is. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com, download America's #1 sportsbook. So let's keep it 100. The Philadelphia Eagles play tonight against the Atlanta Falcons. It's Monday Night Football, baby. The spread, 5.5. Eagles will cover the spread. I am not concerned about that. So if you want to make some do-re-mi, I know AJ Brown is out due to a hamstring injury. Listen, I am telling you, if you want to make some money, Eagles, money line, bet the spread. Jalen Hurts, first TD of the game. I'm just saying, listen, I say it how it is, but again, FanDuel.com, and you get that 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket. That's a deal and a half. So definitely check out FanDuel.com. So everybody knows about Zach Balduke. And Zach Balduke were the C for the Blues in this year's prospect showcase. He said, quote, "It's always an honor to be the captain of a team." And personally, I was very happy for Zachary Balduke. I know this is a player that Doug Armstrong sees a lot of potential in. A lot of people see potential in Zachary Balduke. He's 21 years old. And honestly, he had 8 goals and 25 points in 50 games last season with the Blues. But he also, said some things. So he said, quote, "I had great moments here and at the end of the season, but nothing is acquired. I have to work for my spot. I show that I can play with these guys. Now I have to redo it and show them what I can do again. I know that I can play with these guys. I know I can help the Blues to win games. I just got to show it on the ice and bring my best assets on the ice." I have to say, the way that Zachary Balduke talks about the Blues and what he wants to do is a true leader, because it's all about the Blues winning. And I think that's where I get my confidence maybe within him, because he is such a team guy. And even when I spoke to him before last season, again, it was all about the team. So huge fan of Zachary Balduke. I think also too about Balduke, and what I liked most about his game is that he was very noticeable on the ice. You could kind of tell, where he was playing, and he really did shine the whole entire time. So I think that, again, you have a player that obviously is going to shine, and he did just that in the prospect showcases. And he's this is how much I love Zach Balduke, right? He scored 1 goal and 2 assists over the showcase, but that goal was a beauty, okay? Absolute beauty. It was a standout goal, 100%, nothing about it. It was like the goal probably of the showcase, like, if I'm being honest. I mean, it was a very good goal. And I said, I'm like, oh, captain. And it was very weird for me, right? To kind of maybe say that, because I was like, oh, this is a little weird, because, he's not Braden Shen, but he did have a good goal. And Balduke, should he be playing in these games? Not really. But again, let me talk a little bit about the goal. So he scored it a little bit over the halfway point of the second period. And he basically took the puck at center ice, and he cut past Minnesota's defenseman, and he slipped a backhand 5-hole. Okay. And I was like, whoo, sheesh. And then that tied the game 1-1. So it was a beaut. That's my best way to describe it. I was actually just re-looking at the video of the goal just so I could like describe it to you, but it was good. Okay. Um, T-Bird's coach said, I just know he played well here and he'll go to the next camp and he'll do what he does. There's a lot of hockey, but he certainly played well here. So it definitely was quite good to see. I mean, Zach Balduke stood out. He was, you know what? I'm going to give you a statement here on Locked On Blues right now. I'm all about giving positive statements, happy statements. I think Zachary Balduke was the best player on the ice during the prospect showcase for the St. Louis Blues, without a doubt. Zachary Balduke did not need to be at. But do you know how positive that is for me to say on this show here in Locked On Blues that Zach Balduke didn't have to be there because he stood out to me that much? I mean, obviously there's stuff that he needs to work on, and I'm not going to be naive about that, right? But I mean, in terms of the prospect showcase, he definitely was a huge standout. And I think that just goes to show that his skill is quite, quite good. And again, I think that a lot of eyes were on him and he is trying to push to make, the roster. And I know that it's gonna be a little bit more challenging this year just due to the fact that the Blues have some more talent this season than they did last season. With the moves that they made in the offseason. So I know there's gonna be a lot of guys fighting for that roster spot. However, I think that, Balduke has really shown a lot. And I kind of want to do something. I did interview a bunch of the guys, right? And I did interview Zachary Balduke last season. And I'm going to play that for you just because we kind of talked about him getting his first NHL goal. And I feel like, listening to what he has to say is a very interesting thing. So I'm going to play this audio just because I feel like it's kind of fitting into today's theme. So ever since you've been brought up to the St. Louis Blues, you seem to really be impressing fans. Can you tell us a little bit about, what's it like been scoring and really getting the city going behind you?
Yeah, I mean, the fans are amazing in St. Louis. We had a huge game on Saturday night, and they were there. It was pretty fun. My family was there too, so it's kind of cool. So yeah, I like the crowd. It's pretty.
And you had your 21st birthday, and you got a goal on the same day. What was that like for you to have that kind of experience?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. I mean, my 21st birthday, and I scored my first goal, so it was a huge day for me, and yeah, I'm pretty happy and just looking forward for the next few games. Yeah.
Cool, awesome. So yeah, this is a guy that obviously very humble, and I'm just so excited to see his product. I mean, see his progression here in St. Louis. So it definitely was fun to watch him. And, the stream, I have to say, it wasn't the best quality, but you could definitely tell when he was on the ice because it would just go so fast. And you'd go, who's speeding by? And it was Zachary Balduke. Definitely a little bit of a funny thing to see Marine the Sea, obviously, but hopefully that's a motivation for him who definitely will, continue on. I think that, last season, he definitely made a good impression on the St. Louis Blues when he was caught up in February, by the way. This video was filmed in March. And I think that, again, putting up, 9 points, 5 goals, 4 assists. And then in April, he went on a more consistent run. Definitely was a very positive thing. And I think, too, besides him, is that he's ready to do whatever it takes to be in this lineup at the beginning of the season. Last AHL season, his debut in the league, he put up 25 points in 50 games before being caught up. And then he got sent down again. And then he returned to the Blues lineup in April for the remainder of the season. But again, he wants to be on this roster. He wants to be in the lineup for the entirety of the season. And there's other players on the Blues that we saw, like Tyler Tucker, Scott Perunovich, different guys that were called up and got sent back down. And I doubt any of them like that, right? I mean, I'm sure they like being called up, obviously, but they want that consistency. So I think for Zach Balduke, his goal isn't, I could always be called up eventually. It is, I want to be on this lineup opening night, and he is willing to do whatever it takes. And I think him given the captaincy for the showcase, it also shows, yeah, people are noticing you, Zach. Like, people on this organization, some higher ups are noticing what you can do and what you can bring to this organization. So overall, I was really happy for Balduke, and I think that he had a really good game. So I want to talk to you, my friends at Locked On Blues, about this channel. What about this channel, you might ask? I want you to subscribe to this channel. That is right. I will be posting videos on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts 5 days a week. So make sure to subscribe. Stay locked in to Locked On Blues. Throughout the season, I will be having on different cool guests. I know you saw a preview of that this summer with the different guests I had on. And I really do believe that this season is going to be so much better than last season with the content that I am going to bring to you. Yes, I am planning on going out to St. Louis. We all know I don't live in St. Louis, but yes, I'm already planning my trip out there, and I cannot wait to be finally in St. Louis again. It's been a couple of years, too long, but again, you have to stay subscribed to this channel for me to do cool things like that because I truly do love talking about the Blues every day to you, and I like the little family fan base that we have here in Locked On Blues. So I appreciate you. Just make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. I am done with my you begging. Let's get back into some Blues hockey talk. So some prospect takeaways that I wanted to mention. I know I mentioned about Will Cranley. I know I mentioned about Zachary Balduke. I also want to talk about Dalibor Dvorsky, maybe some Robertson. So we all know I'm like the biggest Dvorsky fan. Like, we know that, right? Here's the thing. I will go to bat and say this. I think Dvorsky will make the team this season. I do. He set up some really nice goals. He is just one of those players where I feel so strongly about him. I think that he embodies everything that a St. Louis Blues player should be. Yes, is there things that he needs to work on? 100%. But he really did shine. And, he wants to be on this team. He wants to do what it takes to be on this team. And I don't think there is anybody that can make that argument that he doesn't deserve to be on this team. And I think that, again, that is something where you have to really look at him and think, okay, this player is willing to do whatever it takes. I mean, Dalibor Dvorsky, to put it in the simplest of terms, he's a star and he's going to be a star. And I think that the Blues are really lucky with what they have within him. And overall, I just am very happy about, what he's going to do. Okay. Obviously last season he played in the OHL and he played 52 games, 88 points, and he put him in the top 20 within the league for points. So I thought that was really good. He also played in the World Junior Championships with Slovakia, and he had 6 points in 5 games. So the thing about Dvorsky too, great IQ, right? We know that he's smart. He's one of the best offensive prospects, okay? There is a lot within him, and he was the top 10 draft pick, okay? He was 10th overall in last year's draft. So he does play with a lot of good skill sets. I think that this is going to be his time to shine. I think that he has played very competitive games that maybe don't equal to what the NHL should be. But it also kind of helps that he has played in some games where, how do I say this? That had some pressure, so to say, that had some of that atmosphere. And I think that he's only going to get better. Okay. And on the first game, he did have some turnovers and it wasn't the best, but he definitely did do better. And he's probably putting a lot of pressure on himself, to be honest, which is why he made some of those sloppy mistakes. So again, it wasn't like something where I looked at it and thought, oh my goodness, this is the end of Dalibor Dvorsky. The way that I saw it was he looked a little nervous. He looked like he gained that confidence though pretty soon. But that was an observation that I made. I know it's not the best observation. It's not the most positive thing to hear, but I do believe that he kind of overcame that. Let's also talk about Robertson. I thought he played a good game. I mean, there's been players that I do think played well. But Dvorsky was somebody that I also had my eyes on a lot, as I'm hoping that he makes the team this season. So it was good. Just needed to get that confidence up a little bit. But overall, I was happy with how he played. All right. I will talk to you tomorrow on Locked On Blues. And like always how I end every single episode. I have missed you all so much. Let's go Blues.